The Nintendo Switch 2 hasn't officially been revealed or announced yet, but Nintendo has already acknowledged its existence and given us hints about when we might expect it. With all the leaks and rumors circulating, we have a pretty solid idea of what the device might look like and what's inside. Normally, I prefer to avoid making videos centered around speculation, but in this case, the rumors seem credible enough to dive into. Plus, this channel was built on covering the original Switch rumors, so consider this a bit of a throwback. The aspect that's getting the most attention right now is the design of the Switch 2. Recently, a user posted CAD renders on a Chinese social media site, which later made their way to Faggy boards. These renders feel authentic, especially since the materials look like prototype plastic similar to what we've seen from previous hardware leaks. I also have to agree with what Digital Foundry pointed out. Why would someone go through the trouble of faking a detailed board layout? It seems like an awful lot of effort just for a prank, and considering the layout's unique battery compartment, it strongly suggests this could indeed be a Nintendo device. Unlike most tablets, which have larger battery compartments, Nintendo seems to favor more compact ones. And while some might worry about battery life, I don't think there's much cause for concern. Nintendo has a habit of underclocking hardware, using older tech at a lower performance level to enhance efficiency, so I suspect the battery life will be decent. In fact, it could be much better than the original Switch, which only gave users around 3 hours of battery life. By comparison, that doesn't seem too bad, given that many current PC handhelds can barely scrape 45 minutes of use. Now, before diving into the leaked specs, I want to touch on the CAD files again. Out of curiosity, I tried to track them down myself. A Chinese YouTuber managed to 3D print a mock-up based on the renders, so I figure it wouldn't be too difficult to find the files. Turns out, if they were ever available, Nintendo's legal team did a stellar job scrubbing them from the internet. There are still screenshots floating around though, particularly from Xn's YouTube video where they printed a model using those pictures. The downside is that this has turned into a bit of a game of telephone, which might skew some proportions. I even took those screenshots and traced them for further comparison with a Joy-Con 3D file I had to estimate the size. Based on this, I printed my own mockup, though to be clear, it's not perfect, but it does give us a good size comparison. What's really interesting is that the thumbsticks and buttons on the leaked images appear slightly larger than the original. I'm hoping this means Nintendo has finally gone with a different thumbstick design altogether. The larger L and R buttons also caught my eye, as they seem to take up more space along the sides of the device, while the ZL and ZR buttons are lower and quite massive. And then there's the Joy-Con rails. It's rumored they could be magnetic now, which would be a huge change. Supposedly, there's a button that activates or deactivates an electromagnet, which would help the Joy-Cons lock securely into the main console. Another interesting detail is the presence of an additional button. No one knows what it does yet, but it closely resembles the share button. While it wouldn't make much sense to have two share buttons, some have speculated that it might be a microphone on slash-off switch, since rumors suggest the Switch 2 will have mix built into both the Joy-Cons and possibly the console or dock. There's even some speculation that this button might be related to casting or a second screen feature, though I find the latter unlikely. If anything, it could be tied to Nintendo's recent filing for a human presence-sensing device, but it's hard to say for sure. Nintendo has a history of adding quirky tech to its Joy-Cons that only gets used in 1 or 2 games and then forgotten, so it wouldn't be surprising if this button is tied to some kind of experimental feature that never takes off.